Welcome, everyone, to today's webinar, especially to those people that are new to our webinar series. We typically do 3 webinars a month. The first webinar is usually the first Wednesday of the month, is done by our sales team, and they talk about either just the general overview of what ClubExpress is and what it can do for people, or sometimes they're sort of targeted towards particular verticals, like a bicycle club or a sailing club or some type of vertical like a Chamber of Commerce. And so those are very interesting because you get to see how people are actually using ClubExpress for their particular needs. And the webinars that I generally do are functionality based. So we'll be looking at different modules, whether it be member interests or photos or advanced content editor. Most of mine are geared towards administrators who are actually configuring and managing the membership and the website. And sometimes Dan or one of the other people will give webinars about new version features. So when we announce a new version or a point rev, it's nice to show people what has just been added to the product. So we have this little introduction, and then I'm going to do a demonstration. And after that, we'll go into questions and answers. Let's take care of a little bit of housekeeping first. The phones and microphones are muted. So what we'd like you to do is, if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask them along the way, but you do it in the chat window. And this way, we have Michelle, who's on our support staff. She'll be monitoring the chat window and answer questions as they come in. And at the end, we will revisit the questions so that someone watching the recording will have benefit of knowing what the questions were and what some of the answers were. And if questions come in about something that I'm demonstrating at a particular time, Michelle will speak up and say, "Hey, Alan, we got a question about this. And as long as you're showing this, can we take a look at that?" So that's great. Now, a recording of this webinar and all of our webinars and tutorials are available on the ClubExpress Cool Stuff page. So you go to clubexpress.com, you click on the Cool Stuff link at the top of the page. Then on the left side of the page, there's a listing for webinars, and you'll see the upcoming webinar schedule. And then if you go down to the bottom of the page, there's a section about recorded webinars. Similarly, if you click on the video tutorials page, you'll see all of the recent tutorials and tutorials that are broken out by tab that's similar to the tabs on your control panel. And also, if you go to the control panel and you go to the support tab, the tutorials are all listed there. The webinars are not, but the tutorials are listed there. And we do have a request, and that is that if you are using ClubExpress, and particularly if you're happy with ClubExpress, we'd like for you to go to clubexpress.com/reviews and enter a review into one of several review sites so other people who are evaluating their association management system can have the benefit of your experience with ClubExpress. So today we're going to be talking about member interests. And these are the topics I'm hoping to cover in the next 45 minutes or so. I'm going to talk about the member interest page, do a little overview, talk about what member interests are. We'll look at categories. We'll look at who can see the particular categories. We'll look at how to join, that you can export and email to people in different interests. And we'll also show how you can manage your membership in interest groups via your profile page. So that's from sort of the user standpoint. Then we'll talk about the administration, how to set up categories, how to add new interests, add a coordinator. We'll talk about some of the options that you can set for interests. And we'll show you how to export interest members and look at a couple of the reports. And now that you've got some interest and you've got members that are interested, well, what do you do with this? How do you use it to make decisions? Well, aside from the reports, you can email to people with a particular interest, or you can set up discussion forums that are only available to people that have registered a particular interest. So that's sort of where we're going with this. So let me share my desktop with you. What we have here is our typical demo club, which is a fictitious Northwest Balloon Club. And I'm currently logged in as Martin Smith, and Martin Smith is an administrator. So keep in mind that you've got things that administrators can see, things that general members can see, and things that can be seen when you are logged out. So if I come over here to this members menu, you'll see that the interest module has already been put on the menu. So if I click on this, you will see here interests, and interests are broken into categories. So we have a safety category. In fact, I'll just zoom out a little bit. Zoom out a lot. We have a safety category, an equipment category, a category called flying, and a category called administration. And you'll notice that the safety category is available to everyone. The equipment category is available to members only. Flying is available to everyone, and administration is available only to administrators. So if I come back up here, and if I just copy the URL of this page, and now I'll just copy this here, and now if I log out, and I paste the URL of that page, because it's not on the non-member menu, it's not on the public menu. But if I come to this page, if I have the URL, and I am not logged in as a member, now I can only see these two, the safety and flying, because we said that those are public facing. However, if I try to click on view members here, it'll tell me, hey, you need to log in. And that's something that's configurable. You can decide whether or not you want people that are not logged in to be able to see the members of a particular interest. So I wanted to show you how that works. Now, if I log in, say, as Jenny Cho, she gets to see safety, equipment, because equipment was available only to logged in members. And she gets to see flying, but she doesn't get to see that admin group that was at the bottom. And because she is logged in, when she goes to click on view members, she can see who the members are. And because she is not currently a member of this interest, she can just click on sign me up. So right now we've got 4 people as members of this interest. And now there are 5 people in the interest. So really what interests are groups of people who share a common interest. And so you can set up interests into categories. An interest can have a coordinator. And if you click on the coordinator name, you'll see the basic information about the coordinator. You can optionally have a web page attached to an interest. So if you have a custom web page, say, for baskets, this is about a ballooning club. So the envelope is the thing that holds the hot air, and baskets is the thing that holds the people. So if I click on this little eye here, aha, that's because I didn't make that one available. Let's try the other one. This one here says, balloon is spelled wrong. This would be the safety page. But now I'm going to log in as a different user. I'm going to log in as Martin Smith. And now if I go to interests, let's see if this one shows up now. Yeah, now it shows up. I probably didn't activate the page, but because I'm an administrator, I can see the things that general members could not see. So that just shows that you can attach pages to any one of these interests within a category. So when you're in an interest, let's assume that I'm looking at baskets. If you're already a member, so I'm logged in as Martin Smith, you can click on Remove Me. And if you click on Remove Me, it should change to Well, sign me up. So you're letting people opt into this. Because I am an administrator, I can export a list of members. So if I click on export members, down at the bottom of the screen here, I'm getting a downloaded file. And if I open it up, it will show the interest name, it'll show the category that it's in, and give you all the information about the members that are in this interest, including their status. So we have a couple of people that are prospective members, a bunch of people that are expired members. So this is showing all the people, not just the current active members in the club or organization, because this is only showing people that are active. But if you wanted to perhaps send an email to inactive members, you might be able to do that. And we can click on email members, and what it's going to do is give you a little advanced content editor here, and you can put in a subject and some text, and we'll send an email to all those members. It says, note that this email will not reach members who have opted out of receiving emails. I don't know, Michelle, if this will send an email to anybody who is not on this list. Will it send an email to the inactive members? Do you know?
That is a very good question, and I do not know. So I will have to research that, and we can.
No problem.
I cannot remember whether this goes to only the active members.
Yeah, I would assume that it only goes to active members.
It probably does, because most of them do.
Yeah. All right. So meanwhile, we've grouped these interests into categories. Now, one way to join an interest is to go to each one of these things and click on sign me up or remove me. The other way of doing it is to go to your profile. So if we come up here to the person who's logged in, click on profile. On the right side under website, there's a thing here for interests. So when you click on interests, it shows you all of the interests that you are allowed to see. And because Martin is an administrator, Martin can see all of the interests. But Jenny would not see, say, this one at the bottom for administration. It's the kind of thing that you will see only what you're allowed to see. So here, I can come in and say, oh, yeah, I'm interested in piloting chase crew and launch sites, and I want to do a demonstrator review, which is only for administrators who are interested in previewing and reviewing current and potential demonstrators. So if I save that, so see, I just, on the administration, I just clicked on demonstrator review. If I save that and now go back to interests and go down to demonstrator review, there is now one member, and I can remove myself here if I want to. But that is just a quick way of your members saying, hey, I want to join these interests. It's sort of a related thing. Let me see if I can do this. It was not on my original plan to do this, but if I come over here to people, and if we go to the membership setup wizard, one of the things you can do with the membership setup wizard is you can decide whether or not you want to show them the member interest page when they are either signing up as a new member or renewing. Now, members can get to the interest page at any time, but when you're signing up people for your club, you may say, hey, I want new members to see this page as part of their sign-up process, and or I want renewals to be presented with this page so that they have an opportunity when they're renewing, they're sending in their check or they're paying by credit card, and say, hey, we just want to get this member screen in front of them again. Similarly, you can do the same thing for additional member data where you may be asking them, what's your certification number or anything that's data that's being collected by your club that's not part of the normal demographic data. So these checkboxes here determine which screens are shown. The ones that are grayed out are always shown, like the contact information and member type and things like that. But these are optional screens. And we have a video about the membership setup wizard that goes through that. But here's a way of just putting the member interest in front of your members. And if you click on these boxes here, you see this is the admin column. So this is when an admin registers or when the admin renews. And so let me just save that. So if we're back on the interest screen, one way to administer the interest screen is to come to the Page Tools widget and click on Edit. And that'll bring us directly into interest category administration. The other way of doing it is to go to the Control panel. And on the People tab, there's interest. I think on communication, now let's see if there's any place else. On Club tab is also interest. So you got a lot of different ways of getting to the same place. So if you click on interest there or go to the Page Tools widget, when you're viewing interest, it brings you to the interest category administration. So here's where we get to see the categories. And if I come back over to this other tab here, I just want to refresh the page because we had it where this was just a general member logging in. If I refresh the page here, now because I'm logged in as administrator, I get to see this administration only interest at the bottom. So we'll flip back and forth between these pages. If I go back to the category administration tab, this shows a list of the categories. And each one of the categories has properties. This list shows the name of the category, how many interests are there in this category, what is the visibility of this category. So the safety category is available to everyone, whether or not you were logged in. And we saw that in the very beginning. Visibility, safety, and flying were available to everybody before they logged in. When Jenny Cho logged in, she was able to see the everyone categories and the equipment category, which was available to members only. And then when I logged in as Martin Smith, we were able to see those three and the admins only category. So if we look at, say, safety, and I click on the edit icon, we've got a category title, a description. We have who's the visibility. Is it everyone, members only, admins and member profile? And you can also opt to limit the interest per member. So if you have something where you've got 10 interests in a category, but you only want someone to be able to sign up for 4 of them, you can click on limit interest per category, and then you can set how many interests you're allowed to select in one category. I don't know how many people will use this, but it's very possible that you're setting up interests and you want some things to simply say, select your top 5 interests. And that way you can get a good sense of what people are thinking is important to them. But if you don't want to limit the interests, you can just uncheck that. With equipment, it's very similar, but you see this was set up for members only and administration was set up for admins only. You can also change the display sequence. So much like most other lists, if I come over here and I say, oh, I want flying to be above equipment, I can come over here. And in this list, it does actually change it in the list. Within a category, it turns out it doesn't change it in the list, but it does change it in the display. So if I come over here to, say, equipment, this is going to show the interests within that category. So you'll see here, we've got baskets, burners. So this is actually in alphabetical order. But if I click on display sequence, you'll see that, oh no, I actually put envelopes at the top, then baskets and burners. So in this particular case, the list here doesn't show them in the display sequence order, but the actual interest page will respect this order. So I could take envelopes and move it down between baskets and burners or whatever. I could move it down here. And then if I come back to the other tab and I refresh, envelopes won't be at the top. It gets moved down to the middle as I just described. If I want to add an interest here, let's add an interest here called rigging. And the description will be ropes and things. And there's no panel for this. I can select a coordinator for this. And if I decide I want Jenny Cho, I can select her and save it. And now it will show up. And here I can go and set members. And I can add particular members if I know that they're available. So if I come over here, search for Manny, and I can actually add Manny to the interest in advance. And so this will show up. And again, I can just look at it. And once you have created the interest, then and only then can you go and pick a web page if there is a web page that is specific to this particular interest. And you can decide whether or not you want to change the coordinator or remove the coordinator. If you want to delete, you can delete it. You can email, much the same as we did before, and mark it as urgent. And it says, note here that it doesn't accept HTML input or any text enclosed in greater than or less than brackets. So it's warning you that this is a very, very simple email. We'll get to more complicated emails in a little bit. This is a good point to pause. Michelle, have we had any questions so far?
Yeah, we had a question. Roger had asked about to explain the differences between interest groups and committees, and also can non-members be an interest? So I replied to him. If you like, I can.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. So basically, they are both ways to organize groups of members, but differences are that you can actually add non-members to a committee, but interests is pretty much a members-only feature. And with interests, as you've demonstrated, members can add themselves and remove themselves from interests. But for the most part, committees are usually set groups, like your board of directors committee, your membership committee, your events committee. But you can also set up committees to say that you're allowing members to add themselves to it if you wish, although most of the time that's not how they're structured.
Yeah, there are various
Yeah.
committees. If you want, particularly if you want people to volunteer to be in a committee,
Right.
You're saying,
Exactly.
okay, come to this committee, and we want you on the on the fly-in committee, and we want you to be able to do this. So yeah, so
Right.
these are pretty much groups of people, but you'll notice over here we don't have a list here of committees that you're on. So the website here, we've got interests and photo albums and things like that. So interests is you signing up for things that you are simply interested in. It's not an organizational thing, because committees are usually organized where we've got the safety committee, or we've got the executive board committee, or we've got the finance committee, and then there are maybe subcommittees of committees. We don't have sub-interests of interests. So the organization is a little different, and interests are more about finding out literally what your membership are interested in, so that they can find other people with like interests, and so that you can contact them, or that they can contact each other. So that's actually a good question, but it's sort of committees are more structured, and interests are a little more freeform. You can add and remove interests pretty easily. With committees, you can say, this committee is limited to 9 members, that kind of thing. And here's what the title of the people in this committee is. So interests is a little more freeform. Any more questions?
No, that was it so far.
Okay, so let's go back to interests, and we've already added a new interest. I can also add a new category. So I added a new interest in equipment by clicking on the interest and then clicking on add interest. So we did rigging. So again, I can change the display sequence and say I want the display sequence up here, and now it's there. But if I go back up one level, here's where I could set up another category. So if you set up a category, we'll just call this teaching. Then I can say teaching and demonstration. And so here we can decide, again, who it's going to be available to. And let's just make it members only. And if I save that, then it just shows up here. And then if I want to delete it, I can just whack it by clicking on the delete icon, and we get a confirmation here. So let's take a look at some of the things we can do here. So adding a category is easy. Then once you've added a category, you can add interests. Display sequence is pretty straightforward. Reports. Reports are kind of interesting here because now we have a report of members by interest. So if I click on report by members by interest, and I'll just run this report, now it says, okay, we have a category called administration. And although there are 2 interests set up in there, only one of them has a member. So it's only showing data for interests that have members. So it's saying, okay, the demonstrator review interest has Martin Smith. The equipment category has a baskets interest, and here are the members for that interest, and the burners interest, and all of that. And so it's going to show all of that information for each of the interests. If I go into interest by member name and I run that report, it's going to show each of the members and what are the interests for each member. So if we look at Henry, he's interested in baskets and education and safety inspection. Martin is interested in all this stuff down here. So you can get a good sense of not only how many people are in your particular interest, but who they are. You can have a simple interest list, which is just going to show you the interests themselves. This is the structure, whether or not there's anybody in the interest. That's just a structural report. And let's see, we have members by interest and non-admin categories. And then you can decide whether or not it's for all members or for a particular group. Now let's run this report. So this is by interest for non-admin categories. So that's the kind of thing you might be able to publish to your club, not showing the admin categories. And similarly, there'll be one just for the interest by member name, but not the admin categories. If I export the interest members, this is going to be all of the members across all of the interests. So if I click on that and we say for all members and I click on export and I open this, you will see that it has all of the people sorted. I think it's sorted by last name. And it's going to show here, over here, all of the interests that they're signed up for. So in this list, it's actually pretty good because this is not showing you the categories, it's showing you the names. So it's a good idea if you're going to use this report to make sure that your interests are named uniquely so that you don't have something under safety category called teaching and another one under, piloting called teaching, because then you wouldn't know which teaching the column is referring to. So that's just a little tip there. So again, this you could publish or make some decisions based on how many X's are in which columns. Export interest members is going to export all of the members and all of the interests. Whereas if you come into a particular interest, you can look at the members and you could look at them individually. And it's also different than if you're looking at the interest, there's that export that I showed you before. Now, interest options, there's only a few. And so one of the things is, do we want to allow non-members to view interest members? Now, you may recall that when I was not logged in, we were able to look at the public-facing categories. But when I clicked on that right arrow to view the members, it asked me to log in. And that's because this was not checked. If I check this and we log out, it's going to allow them to view the members. Now, this use accordion for categories is kind of interesting, because if we look at this here, we've got, these are expanded. But if I click on use accordions for categories and I save, and I switch over to this other tab and I refresh the page, now we've got a collapsed list. And you click on the down arrow here to show or hide the interests for each category. So if you have a lot of categories and a lot of interests, this might be a nicer interface than showing the entire list. Go back to interest options. And then the question is, if you've got interest coordinators, do you want to let the coordinator for a particular interest know when there's been a change in the membership of the interest? So if we say yes, we can decide whether to let your coordinators know when a member joins or leaves or is expired or drops, which would be another way of them leaving. So you can decide whether or not you want to notify the coordinators. Now, as I'm fond of doing, it's worth remembering that when you're looking at these things and you don't know what something is, you can always come over to your Page Tools widget, click on Help, and it will explain what each one of the items does. And we have Michelle to thank for this, because she's written most of these help screens.
Thank you.
And yeah, but it's amazing how many people don't really realize that help is available on virtually every page and everything that you're dealing with. And in fact, if we come over here to the interest manager and I click on help, you'll see here that on the administration page, we have a list for the video tutorials. And so if you click on this, it will open up the video tutorial on members' interests, in which case I do in 9 minutes, which is taking me about 45 minutes to do here. So we've covered all of these options in the interest administration. And once again, it's a good time to look over my shoulder. Michelle, any questions so far?
Yes, actually. Roger had another really good one. He asked if the interest export and reports respected member visibility, because admins might like full info, but if the list is going to be distributed to members, then obviously they have visibility options. And the answer to that is, for the membership directory, members can change the visibility level or even opt out completely. And the contact information that they want to show also is reflected in the committees module. However, with interests, when somebody is coming here and running any of these reports or the export, if I as a member have said, oh, I just want my name, for example, displayed in the membership directory, I don't want my email or phone, well, that's fine. If I'm running these reports and exports, my email and phone will still be pulled onto them. So generally, these are really for the admin or the interest group coordinators use, so that they can contact their interest group members if they need to easily, and because they normally wouldn't have access to send emails using the email module, for example. So that's the answer to that one.
Yeah, so if we were to look at interest for a moment, and we look at equipment here, and we look at baskets, this will respect who has the right to see this stuff. So now I'm an administrator, which means I get to see all of this. But if I were coming in as a member and someone said, I don't want to show my email address, I don't believe the email address would show up on here.
Correct. That's correct. Yeah. For the committees module, yes.
Right. Well, even for the even for the interest module here. So if I log in, say, as Jenny Cho, let's see if this works. 1, 2, 3, and we'll see if it works. And now if I go to interests, let's see, equipment's at the bottom here. And if I go here, yeah, see this person here decided that he doesn't want to show his email address. And the reason the reason I was able to see it was because I was an administrator. And administrators see all and know all. They watch you when you're sleeping. We admins know how to do this stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yep. Any other questions?
No, that was it. I'm sorry. No,
Okay,
that was
no,
it. Just
that's
the
okay. So
visibility.
I'm going to log back in
Yeah.
as
Mhm.
Martin again. And now let's do something useful with this. So if we go to the control panel, there's a couple of things we can do. One is we can go and do an emailing. And I'm just going to search for all the emailings that are done. I'm going to add a new emailing. And we're going to go into the edit basics here and say this is from Martin. And I can decide whether or not this is going to be allowed on the view emails page, because there is an email page which is on your website that you can enable that will show emails that are in categories that allow being on the page. So let's just do this as an alert, and you can decide whether or not it's allowed on the email page. If the alert category is allowed on the email page, we can decide whether or not we want to send it now or we want to send it at a later date. And we're just going to call this new safety regulation. And I'm going to set this as urgent. And I want to track opens. I want to make this personalization allowed. And I'm going to say save this. So that's the basic information about the email. But then the question is, who does the email go to? So I'm going to edit the distribution list. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new list. And I want this to go to members of a selected interest group. So if I click on members of a selected interest group, I can decide which interest group. So I want to send it to everybody who's in the safety rules, the rules interest in the safety category. So I'm going to add that. And then I'm also going to send it to everybody who's interested in safety and inspection. And I also want to send it to anybody who's interested in safety violations. And I can save this as a predefined list by just giving the list a name. But if I choose save, okay, then I can go in and edit and create my my text. And I can come over here and preview this list. This should give me a preview of who the email is going to, but I'm going to just save the list and close. And I can also save this as a template if this is something that you want to be able to do at a later time. So if I'm going to save and close, I could then send this email out, and this email would go to anybody who is in any of those three interests. And if they're in more than one interest, it will deduplicate them, make sure they only get one. So I could also go in here, say, well, here showing the interest, rules, education, and safety violations. This is another reason why you wouldn't necessarily name the interests in different categories. You wouldn't name them the same, like teaching. But I could also come in here and edit the distribution list and say, oh, I also want to make it members of the committee, the board of directors. If I save that, so here it's showing how many people are in the rules, how many people are in the education inspection, how many people are in the board of directors. So this will give you a rough idea of what's going on. And of course, you can come down to the bottom. You can send a test to yourself once you've got some content. And then when it's ready for delivery, you can flag it as ready for delivery. So this is one of the reasons why you want to know information about your membership is so you can contact them. The more you know about them, the more value you can provide to them. So emails is one very nice way of doing it. Now, the other thing that you could do is you can set up forums that are specific to an interest. So if I look at the forums here, here they are. I set up a forum yesterday called Basket Case. And the Basket Case is available to interest members who are in this particular interest. So this automatically enters them or subscribes them to this forum. Now, I'm not going to set up a new forum now because it takes a while for the forum to sort of register online. Actually, maybe I will do it. We did this thing called rigging, right? And so if I want to add a forum called balloon rigging, which is going to be only for those people interested in ropes and things. So we're going to say talk about ropes and things. I'm going to make this in the members only. Actually, make it a special members forum. This is just like interests have categories. Your forums can have categories. And I'm going to say this is only for members' interests and only for those people in riggings. Here's another reason why you wouldn't want to have two things called teaching. So we say rigging, and visibility is only for people that are in this forum. And then, of course, here you can decide whether or not they can post online or via email or whatever. And if I save this, it says forum membership updates will be delayed. And now if I go and look at forums, and I go to the special member forum, we have balloon rigging here. But if I click on balloon rigging, it's not going to give me the ability to add content yet. And sometimes it takes a little while, and sometimes you have to go in and log out and log back in again. And now let's see if it happens. If I go into forums and I go into balloon rigging, no, not yet. It's still in the process of deciding whether or not anybody needs to be in there. But yesterday when I created the other one for a basket case, it wouldn't let me add anything until I logged out and logged back in. So I guess it was looking at the permissions for forums when you logged in. So just refreshing the login was a nice way of doing it. But this way, if we go back to, say, basket case, now we have start a new thread. We can decide forum preferences here, which will talk about how you want it, the messages delivered and such. And so if I want to start a new thread, or if I come over here to what kind of basket do you prefer, I can actually reply to the message and say, I am a wicker kind of guy. And so that shows up over here. So not only can you email to people in particular interests, but just like with the committee, that you could have a forum that is only available to members of the executive board or members of the safety committee, you can have a forum that is specific to members of a particular interest group, and it will automatically enroll them in the forum. And that way you don't have to keep adding and removing people from the forum, although they can opt out if they want. So that's pretty much what I wanted to show. Are there any other questions at the moment?
Yes, Den had just asked how a regular member, not an admin, could send an email to the rest of the group. And I let him know that only an administrator or the interest group coordinator can send an email to all the group members using the module, but that a member can you send emails to all interest members by using the forum set up for the interest group, as you've just got done demonstrating.
Right, but I'm going to do what I'm going to try doing here.
Yeah.
I think Diaz, and I go to interests, and I go to say equipment, and let's go here, and I want to sign up. You'll notice that there is no email button here. So just because you're a member that's a member of the interest group doesn't mean that you've got email capability. So the reason we were seeing that before is because I was either administrator of the site or coordinator of this particular interest. More questions?
Yes, there was another one that just came in from Kirsten that when someone signs up for an interest, the members are added to the forum by default. They are opted out of the forum. Is there a way to automatically have them opted in? And I was just going to reply that yes, you can set forum defaults for how you want forums to function. And you can also set defaults for how you would like members to be treated and set certain forum member defaults. So you can say for a forum that when you create new forums or a new member joins a forum that they haven't belonged to, that they will automatically be opted in. And that's where Alan is going right now.
So we
To
have
that,
here,
yeah.
things about allow members to subscribe to threads and things like that. And there are a bunch of defaults here for forum member defaults. And there's a lot of these here. And as a matter of fact, if I go to YouTube and I search for ClubExpress, there are 3 forum videos, an A, a B, and a C. The A is about using the forum. So this is mostly from your user standpoint. So the user, it shows them how they can opt into things and how they can manage the subscriptions. B is about forum moderation. So if you've got people that you've assigned to moderate a forum, and it could be, approving messages or just being able to edit messages and move things around. This is for the moderators. And then, of course, you've got the forum administration. And forum administration is the longer one. It's almost a half-hour video that goes through all of those options. So there's a lot of configuration that you can do. And these 3 videos, if you're interested in forums, are very worthwhile going through. Anything else, Michelle?
That was it.
I appreciate everybody coming by, and I hope to see you in the next webinar. The next one is going to be about the new image editor that will let you do some basic edits on photographs and web graphics. So that should be kind of fun. And that's in 2 weeks from now. So thank you, everyone, for coming, and we will see you at the next webinar.